Thank you. Please excuse me, I have to record this evening because I'm missing class. And so to get credit for my class, my professor said, go ahead and record it. And I said, okay. So thank you very much for allowing me to come. So my name is Danielle Gonzalez. I am with Marion County. I am a management analyst. Really what that means is I do pretty much data analysis and other nerd stuff. So I work in economic development. I also work in our dog services program. And so what I've come here today to talk to the City Council about is the North Santiam Joint Sewer Project. Now this is something that the county started looking at after some requests from all of the communities along the Santiam Canyon, including Mill City, Gates, Detroit, and Idana. And the concerns were brought up that for years and years and years, there's been attempts to get a sewer system into the communities to help build economic development opportunities. So I did provide a presentation to the council, and we'll go ahead and just walk through that. So the North Santiam Joint Sewer Project is a combined effort. It started in 2015 when Marion County did a program, a distressed communities program. At the time, there was a concern that during, I think, 2001, there were some promises made by the federal government once the Opal Creek Wilderness area was designated. There was a promise of approximately $15 million to come to the communities that were to offset some of the timber payments that were going to be lost. So that started the conversation. From there, the county hired me. I started in September of 2015. Specifically, my experience is actually working with federal agencies to follow through on their commitments. That was my previous experience in working with the federal government. So the project proposal that we've started to talk through. Now each one of those communities has provided some volunteers to come in and have conversations. We're approximately 7 meetings in since March. Yes, 7 meetings in since March. I do have all of those meetings recorded except for one, just because I forgot. And those are all available if anybody wants them. The meetings have been very informal, just members of the community that are interested coming in to talk about what each community needs from either a sewer system or a wastewater solution, and what are the opportunities moving forward for them. So that kind of brings us to where we are today. So the way we've defined the canyon, the North Santiam Canyon, is Mahama, Lyons, Mill City, Gates, Detroit, and Idana. And some other people, consider the canyon something a little different, but I just wanted to point that out. That's what we're looking at currently. When we're talking about the North Santiam Canyon, we have really some historical perspective that has caused some long-term difficulties in actually creating economic development opportunities. We've had anecdotal information from local businesses that they worry every time they let a customer go to the restroom, and that is not a place where you can really build a strong business platform on. So the reason Marion County is involved, again, is for economic development opportunities, not just for Detroit, not just for Idana, not just for Gates, and not just for Mill City and the Mahama area, but for the region. And one of the things that we've looked at is, again, data nerd, combined together, these communities are very, very strong. Individually and competing against each other, it's not really working. So that's the approach that we've taken. So the question is then, why is wastewater an economic driver? Well, if you cannot open a restaurant or get a permit for a even retail outlet because your septic system cannot sustain a 1 to 2 person operation, that is a not functioning business. So that's really the main reason that this is an economic driver starting from the very beginning. When you have to have porta potties outside of your businesses, it's not really something that you're going to see a lot of new businesses thrive in that environment. So On page 8, did a force field analysis. And what a force field analysis is, it is a review of what are the opposing forces and what are the helping forces to actually move forward on a plan. So when we were meeting with the community members that attended the wastewater meetings, we walked through and kind of identified and gave point scores to what are positive and what are negative to a regional wastewater or sewer solution. Overwhelmingly, the opposing forces is the high cost of a permittable solution. I think everybody in this room, anybody that I've talked to, that's the biggest concern, is that the cost is just going to be too much. And I do want to address those concerns up front and kind of put some parameters around them so we can actually talk about real numbers versus just the numbers that were in our wastewater study. So that, and then also the 3 basin rule requirements. 3 basin rule require, for the state of Oregon, the 3 basin rule says that no sewer or septic discharge can actually be discharged into the river. This is unique. This only happens on 3 water basins in the state of Oregon, the Clackamas, the Mackenzie, and the North Santiam. And those are the only 3 that are affected by this particular provision. One of the options that we would like to look at in the future is how do we modify that so it can be a workable solution, so the communities out here are not taking the brunt of the financial brunt of taking care of downstream water users. So those were the 2 main opposing forces, and if we feel like we can get rid of some of those opposing forces, that it's more likely that this will start moving forward. Now, on the helping forces is that there is an availability of technical resources from the state and federal levels. They have offered. I've been approached by the EDA, we've been the Economic Development Administration, USDA Rural Development, as well as the Oregon Water Utilities. So we've been approached on many different occasions offering assistance, and we want to take up every opportunity to do that. And also that none of the cities, when I looked at the numbers, none of the cities can do this alone. Not a single one. Even Mill City, and we'll talk a little bit about this down the road, but even Mill City that has a step system solution will have to make new investments, and they will not be able to make those new investments without having to raise their rates quite a bit. And so this is a benefit to all of the communities if we can see it through under the parameters that we're going to look forward to. Okay? So if you have any questions about this, I will happily answer questions. So when I was trying to look at a way to bracket what is absolutely your hard-nosed answer, right, of what can be done and what cannot be done. So MHI on page 9, it says constraining parameters. It says end user fees is 1.4% of MHI. MHI is median household income. When you average the median household income for Idana, Detroit, Mill City, and Gates together, the payments, the user fee payments can be no more than $44 a month. That is very different, and that will not pay for a large-scale infrastructure piece. But that is the maximum that can be charged. If you're multiplying that $44 a month by the amount of EDUs, the dwelling units, the annual user fee estimated value is $1.3 million. So with that, the recommended debt servicing would be only somewhere around $458,000 to $497,000. So this is putting some bookends on either side. Specifically, though, the one I wanted to pull your attention to is the recommended total debt capacity load. This is among all 4 of the communities. This is not including Lyons and Mahama, but Mill City, Gates, Detroit, and Idana. $8.5 million is actually less than the legally allowable amount, because the legally allowable amount for all of the communities is based on 13% of the real market value of all of the residents and homes and the properties in that area. That is $31 million. I knew early on that that was not a reasonable number. So when you're looking at the debt capacity versus how much the debt servicing range that is recommended for a best practice, $8.5 million is the most that can be borrowed against. What that means, though, is I can say $8.5 million is the absolute max they could ever take out. That doesn't mean, though, if other debt is assumed, say Mill City's debt would be assumed, but then you would get all of their properties and resources and staffing and all of that. That actually goes into your debt total. So there is a possibility that this could move forward where the debt capacity would only be $4 to $5 million. Okay? So what that means, though, is that we have a lot of fundraising to do. And it could be coming from the federal government, it could be coming from the state government, it could be coming from local governments. One of the other pieces that we looked at is the potential for and moving to page 10, potential for a water source protection fee for downstream water users that are benefiting from the fact that you guys are having to take care of that water source. That would actually help to ensure the long-term stability, where in 25 years, when additional investments need to be made, that money is already there and ready to go, and so no additional debt would have to be taken on at that point. That was one of the sticking points that I had talked about with a few people. My concern is a lot of places take out debt for 40 years, but the usable life of a lot of the water utilities are 25. And so I don't want you guys to take out anything more than the actual usable life. So how do we get then to a project that is on paper $97.3 million, right? The project cannot be at $97.3 million. So what do we have to do? We have to work on possibly adjusting and modifying the 3-basin rule to allow for discharge that may be cooled discharge into the river. Class A recycled water, it is as clean as it can come. That might be the biggest option that we can move forward on. From the DEQ standpoint, when we discussed this initially, they thought that would take down at least 20% of the cost right there, just making that modification. Also with diverse grant and funding opportunities there's everything from clean water agencies to wastewater agencies to economic development agencies to rural development. It's piecing together all of these monies for a project that is a massive project. I will tell you from our meetings in the last few weeks, we've had a gentleman from the Oregon Association of Water Utilities at our meetings. And he was very nice to say, don't worry about the money. The money's going to come. You need to have a plan. You need to have people engaged. You need to have usable outcomes that everybody can understand, and a narrative. All of those things already exist. So if we just move through with the process, he felt very comfortable that the money will always be there, at least for the capital construction piece. So user fees are going to be different. Again, that's where it caps out at $44 under current median household income. So with that, we would also look to add downstream users, add advocates and financial sponsors. I traveled overseas not too long ago, and I was surprised that some of their infrastructure had endowments created at the time that the infrastructure was made. And so that's kind of the intent of a downstream water protection fee, would to kind of create an endowment so long-term investments wouldn't keep trying to hit these communities over and over and over again. So that's kind of how something with a debt capacity of $8.5 million can move forward. So on page 11, this is kind of the current pathway. Now, this does not look simple, but this is actually a simplified version, if you can believe it. So the way that setting up a servicing district or a water or septic sanitary district, the way those are set up is there are 4 different pathways. And so I set it up actually on a big board that says, do we first need wastewater solution? Yes or no? Okay, yes. Okay, let's go down the yes path. Let's not, maybe not assume that everybody needs a wastewater solution. So the consensus, general consensus around the room was that yes, wastewater solution was necessary. So then go down, okay, do you want to do individual cities wastewater solutions, or do you want to do a combined option? So again, going through those numbers, we could see that there was not really a good avenue for individual cities. Then it goes to a combined regional. Then it moves down to, okay, now do you want locally for you guys to create it on your own? Or do you want Marion County to assist in that? Because I don't want to ever assume that you want Marion County in the room, okay? And we want to make sure that we're helping, but not getting in the way. The general consensus in the room was that they felt like they needed some help in getting this off the ground. So we're at this point now where they've asked, the community members that we've been meeting with have asked Marion County to help foster this along. The reason we're here today is because we want to really get the feeling of the city councils. Is that still where we want to be? Okay, I don't want to make that assumption that that's the direction you guys want to go, but we have gotten to that point where we're ready to say, okay, if Marion County then takes the lead, there are some things that we now need to make some decisions upon. So you can see that we've first went through the feasibility and governance study, which was completed in January of this year. That was funded a little bit by Marion County, a little bit by Business Oregon. We've created the informal task group, which the task group was actually something that was a recommendation from the feasibility study. Then the third step is really at some point we're going to need city council resolutions just saying that you do want to be involved in a servicing district. Now I will tell you, the numbers do not work out if all 4 communities, Mill City, Gates, Detroit, and Idana, if they are not all 4 on this together, there is no project. The numbers are not there, not even close. It is the only foreseeable pathway that that my data can point me to. So if that is the case, there's going to be decisions on how the board would need to be structured. My recommendations and my recommendations for the county is going to be that I think that locally the board should be constructed. And they have offered, Marion County has offered to serve as the board, but that is not the indication that I've gotten from the meetings that we've had for the wastewater meetings. And so my recommendation will also recommend that to the Board of Commissioners for Marion County. We need to agree upon areas within the district. My numbers do not include Lyons and Mahama. First reason that we don't include, I don't have Lyons and Mahama in my numbers, 2 reasons. First is they've really had no opportunity, they have not come to some meetings and they've been notified. The other thing is that if Lyons and Mahama are included, it actually raises that $44 user fee because they have a higher median household income. So that is one piece. While it adds more people, if we include Lyons, Marion County can no longer assist because then the majority of the assessed value of those properties are then in Lynn County. Okay, so now you see the complication. Okay, so if those are all okay, then the city councils are also going to have to decide on a shared debt obligation between all 4 of the communities. And then there has to be an official request for Marion County to form a sanitary district. So that's kind of what we're looking at in the recent few, hopefully months, or it could be 6 months, it could be a while to negotiate all of those. From that point, then Marion County has a list of things to do that looks something like this. It's upside down, but a list like this of things that we have to do. Like it'll say if there's no permanent tax, then you can actually do a board formation, but there's some hearings that have to happen. Those hearings have a certain amount of days in between them. So there's a lot of legal complex things that Marion County would have to do. So they would have to create the legal description and boundary maps, again, based on the approvals of the city councils. Then they'd have to then Marion County Board of Commissioners actually have to concur with those requests, then do the public hearings, and then do an adoption to form that. From there, then engineering and design studies can occur. We could actually start the engineering and design a little bit before, but we really need to make sure that there is some agreement among the communities that especially where is being included, for us to really start looking at a design study for any construction. And then Marion County be working on setting up that servicing district with the communities. Again, my recommendation to the county at the end of the month will be local control. And then there's 5, you'd have to have a minimum of 5 board members, 1 from each of the communities, and I would suggest 1 downstream user. That would be my suggestion to get some skin in the game, okay? Capital construction would have to then be taken care of through grants and sewer bonds or sanitary bonds. And then breaking down the maintenance, governance, and operations would all have to be under that user fee by volume. And then the additional red areas is that water source protection fee that would help to offset the long-term cost of redoing and refurbishing things 25 years down the road, okay? So this was a lot that I gave you. Can I answer some questions? Yes?
The water source protection fee, what vehicles exist in state law now to impose that from one municipality?
So it wouldn't be it wouldn't be us imposing anything. We would have to convince our downstream users, City of Salem. This has been approached. Okay. And we didn't get thrown out of the room yet. And the reason we haven't gotten thrown out of the room, and I'll tell you why. Portland right now is having to deal with this exact situation. Bull Run is where they get their water from. Now they're having to make a $500 million investment. Right now, a $2 investment per user or per EDU is a lot more favorable than them having to actually do a full cleaning of the water. So there is a possibility. Now, it is going to take some finagling. It's gonna have to be something where we need to make sure that the North Santiam water, oh my gosh, what's it called? Watershed Council. Thank you. I was there.
Yeah.
The Watershed Council will definitely have to be on board. And a lot of the legislators, because of course they're drinking the water that you're gonna be sending down the stream. So.
You heard something about 3 bases. DEQ kind of open to a modification of that rule?
So, one of their longtime staffers has said that they would be open to a modification, but there is a long process. It would be suggested that if we did an engineering study, or the engineering design, that we actually do a 2-frame, 2-directional, so 1 being with the 3-basin rule, 1 with the modified, and then say, so here's the thing, we'd love to do this higher level, but it's gonna cost you to do that. We can't do that on our own. Water source protection needs to be, it is a social inequity for rural communities to have to bear the burden of cleaning the water for 200,000 people.
She's good.
And then, would this end up being its own special district?
Yes.
Okay,
In that scenario, it would be its own special district. It would be a sanitary district of some sort. It could be a sewer district or a wastewater district, something.
Now, does Marion County have control, or is it the local communities in control
Of a board,
of the board?
it has everything to do with how it is set up. And so if again, my recommendation to the county is going to be for local control, 1 from each community plus a downstream user. That is going to be my recommendation. They have not seen said recommendation. You guys are the first to hear this.
And just for the audience here, we're looking at a timeline here of 5 to 10 years.
Yes, we're talking a significant time frame to get all of these things in order and off the ground. One of the things that I kind of worked on after I sent this to you, and my apologies that I don't have a good copy of this for you. But I've been looking at the actual cost of a septic system over the lifetime versus the cost of a sewer over the lifetime. And the real cost of a septic versus a sewer, the septic is actually more expensive. I was working with, again, the gentleman from Oregon Water Utility Association Utilities, and kind of put together this graph. This right here, again, this is representative. My calculation starts at a $7,000 investment when you're creating, and this is a very low level septic tank. He said that he felt that was a very conservative estimate. So if you have your sewer or your septic, you have small maintenance every 5 years, right? That'll bump up just a little bit for your pumping and all of that, depending on how much it is. But then after approximately 15 years, you have to do some pretty large maintenance. And he suggested that maintenance might be as much as another $7,000. And so when I routed this up, you can see that this cost, and this is my biggest concern, how many people are going to be able to do this when it's needed? When you have a sewer system, it actually takes that cost, divvies it up over multiple different people, and then it keeps it at a steady pace up. Now, the line that I have here is actually with a user fee of the $44 starting, but then adding a 0.5%, so a 0.5% every year to help maintain the governance, the operations, and the maintenance that will obviously keep moving up in cost. So, again, I don't have this, I'm sorry, I've just been working on this the last couple of days, but I wanted to make sure that my assumptions were correct through the utilities, water utilities. So,
I have a question. You
Yes.
just got finished saying after 15 years on a regular septic, it was going to cost another $7,000. What cost is that?
I can't say that I know. I got this information from the Oregon Association of Water Utilities, but I can always get that information and bring it back to you.
Seems like a lot of money after 15 years.
Yeah, he said it could be moving your drain field, is what he said it could be. He said it could be replacing a tank. He said it could be undone maintenance that needed to be done. So, but I can't say for sure. So other questions I can answer?
Comes from council.
So if you set up this system, it costs everybody $44 a month for this system.
That is the
That's
potential.
Right now.
That is what I'm working on as the
So these people
bookends.
that have put in these systems in these new houses have spent tens of thousands of dollars. And then we have the other end where we have people that are very, very, very low income, that they can't afford $44. And
Right.
the ones that spent the $10,000 plus aren't gonna wanna spend $44,000. Is there gonna be a time frame, or is it an automatic, one day where everybody gets shut off and we all go to sewer?
So the good thing is with local leadership and local board, that's what you guys decide. You're gonna have to decide, whoever the board is. That is not for me to decide. My job is to really help give you guys every information pieces, so you guys can decide who is gonna get what and when. So if you're looking at the time frame, we're talking 10 years out. A lot of them are gonna need maintenance at that point.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Everybody in this room has a septic tank, right? Mm-hmm. How many of you have pumped your tank in the last 5 years?
I just put a new tank in.
So how many? So 1, 2, 3,
I do.
I have. So 4. So what I'm getting at is most people do nothing. I know people that haven't pumped their tank in 20, 25, 30 years. So the end result is, without maintenance, a septic is gonna fail. If you do it religiously every 5 years, it probably lasts for a long, long, long time. But the reality is, we don't. That's the reality. I pump my tank at the store every 2 to 3 months, and it's expensive.
How much would you say that is for you?
Well, it's 2,000 gallons of waste, so
Oh, boy, you're looking at,
$500 a
yeah,
time.
at more than that, yeah.
maybe more than that.
Yeah.
But we're still struggling to keep that system working.
You do it that often, every 2 months?
Every 2 to 3 months.
And he's the only one.
Last January, when it was so wet, we could not keep up. We pumped it every 2 weeks.
That's a busy bathroom.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
No evaporation.
there's no yeah. There was no place for it to go, so it was surfacing. I mean, it was coming out the top. So, I am so excited that we have a positive plan to lead us forward. I've been here 20 years. 20 years ago, we had a plan that went nowhere. And then it stopped for how many years? 10? At least 10. So I'm glad to hear that we're finally working ourselves forward towards somewhere. It can't go like this forever.
The last plan, HBH came up with 8.5 or 8.2 million, and we couldn't afford it because of the household income. We couldn't do it. Now, with Marion County has no control. They're given all the legal advice, legal services, doing all the paperwork, which I'll speak for myself, I can't do. I'm amazed. I got a whole notebook full of stuff I keep looking at. We have an opportunity here for Marion County to lead us, and we stay in control. The communities stay in control. That's the way that they want to set it up. There was a couple of gals there before, I can't remember who they belonged with or what their name was. They also said, don't worry about the money. The money's gonna be there. Figure out how you want to do this.
That was the North Santiam Watershed Council, and that was also the Infrastructure Finance Authority from the state of Oregon.
By joining together with IDANA, we need IDANA. Right now, we're at $44,000 each household income. We can't be there. Joining up with IDANA puts us down to where there are the loans, there are the grants, it's workable. With Mill City and Gates, the project was set up for Gates to have their own sewer system. Mill City closed down and come to Gates. Well, that, between everybody sitting down in these meetings, talked about, now Gates goes to Mill City upgrades to handle it, to get the technology to handle it. Now we're all together working on this, making it happen. This is our best chance. What's happening back east and what's all the big talk about infrastructure, we need it. We just need it. You come in, my opinion, my comments about porta potties. You already know them. Keep this clean and keep it pristine. And this, you come in here and people, you watch, you sit at the restaurant eating here and you people got to go use porta potties. I just shake my head. But it's been worked on for a long time, and this is Detroit's best chance. And Detroit stays in control.
Which I had a question too. On the system, have they looked to see how it's gonna be built yet?
No, they gave a preliminary, and the preliminary was the 97.3 million. And don't forget about that amount, because specifically, they had to put something on paper that could be permittable today at the highest level.
Because I've heard different things, that it's gonna be a gravity flow, it's only gonna be a liquid flow, you're gonna have a pump at your place.
Yeah,
And
none of those decisions can be made at this point. We needed them to give us a target, and that's what the engineering study that we got was, a target. Because now I can take that information and go to my legislators and say, I need the difference between $8.5 million and $97 million, because you're gonna be putting this on the rural communities, and it seems to me that you need to help pay for that.
so, if they do have a tank at your house, excuse me, will it be the homeowner's responsibility to hook up to the main line? Or will they come all the way in and hook everything all up for you? The electricity, the breakers, and all